Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, hello, and welcome back to the middle of the order and another TOP. We're so close to the end here, and today we're talking about your Baltimore Orioles. What a season, what a team, what a turnaround. I mean, whatever you want to say it, Baltimore has become very scary with all of their young talent throughout the lineup, and that's going to make them sneaky good entering 2024. Not so sneaky, but they're going to be around and they're going to be a problem. Last year, to everybody's surprise, they won 101 games and lost 61. They were 7th in runs for, 7th in ERA, and 7th in runs against. They finished just ahead of the Tampa Bay Rays, 2 games above them, at first in the AL East. That made them first in the AL overall. And how about second in MLB? They were the second best team in MLB. Despite all of that, they did get swept in the first round in the ALDS against the Rangers 3-0, losing 2 games at home and then 1 on the road. It was tricky, but of course, all these players were young, very little playoff experience, something that, is kind of bound to happen to most teams at some point. But they are going to be good. And with that swept, they will have the 22nd round pick in this year's MLB draft. So let's take a look at who they added. Not a lot of names, but the ones they did are going to help them out big time. Craig Kimbrell for that bullpen. He can still do it. He can still lock down some saves. And of course, they traded for Corbin Burnes to be their ace of the season. He's already listed as the opening day starter as long as he's, there and healthy. So Corbin Burnes, a big add for them. They also have Colton Wong. They signed him on a non-roster invitee deal. Then Nick Maiden they purchased from the Detroit Tigers. That's a guy that we knew as well, so a little pickup there for them. Who they lost? They lost a couple of guys here. Jack Flaherty's gone. Kyle Gibson's out. Jorge Lopez, Adam Frazier, DL Hall, Shintaro Fujinami, Aaron Hicks, and Michael Given. So some key bullpen pieces, a couple of nice starters, and of course, a couple of prospects in order to get Corbin Burnes on their team. Taking a look at what rotation they're going to be sporting entering this season. Corbin Burnes, the ace, the number 1, he is going to be there. Grayson Rodriguez rounds it out. Not rounds it out, but he's the number 2 guy there. Dean Creamer, Tyler Wells, and then Cole Irvin. He rounds off the 5 there. So that is the 5-man rotation for Baltimore. According to Fangraphs, the bullpen has Craig Kimbrell in the back end closing out ball games. Yanier Cano, what a season he had in his kind of like first season in MLB. He was great. For them, Dylan Tate, Danny Colombi, Salmonel Perez. So a couple guys a couple guys a little less familiar. I'm not trusting that bullpen just yet, but Baltimore has turned some players around there and have made good bullpen pieces. So we'll see if that will continue for them this year. The projected starting lineup for these guys has Cedric Mullins leading things off out there in center field. Adley Rutschman, the catcher, batting second. Gunnar Henderson, right now listed as the shortstop, batting third. Anthony Santander in right field bats fourth. Ryan O'Hearn, first baseman, batting fifth. Ryan Mountcastle, the DH, bats sixth. Austin Hayes, left fielder, batting seventh. Jackson Holiday, right now listed batting 8th at second base, the non-roster invitee, the top prospect in baseball. I don't know about having him opening day, but perhaps. And then Jordan Westburg at third base, batting 9th, rounds off that lineup. The bench has James McCann listed for backup catcher, Ramon Urias, Jorge Mateo with all the speed in the world, and then Colton Cowser, one of their young stars there. the farm system is loaded. They've got guys throughout. Obviously, Jackson Holiday. Maybe you've heard of Kobe Mayo, Joey Ortiz, Heston Kjerstad, Colton Cowser. Nick Maton's there now as well. Enrique Bradfield Jr. They have such a talented farm system and already such a talented starting lineup. Like Baltimore is going to be good for years right now. It seems like they have turned it's just very impressive what they've been able to do with this team. The farm system's through the roof. Everything is looking good. They do have a couple of injuries entering 2024. Cedric Mullins has a hamstring tightness right now, but he's on track for opening day and should be fine. And then a couple of starting pitchers. John Means, he's questionable for opening day right now with some elbow soreness. And then Kyle Bradish, he had a sprained elbow. There's no timetable for his return. He's projected to start on the season on the IL as well as John Means. And then, of course, the big one, Felix Bautista. He got Tommy John surgery, I believe October, September. I know he went down earlier, but I'm not sure when exactly he had the surgery. He's going to be out for the 2024 season, so that is a big blow because Felix Bautista was a huge part of that bullpen and, was one of the best closing pitchers in the game last year and, is looking like he will be like that for a long time, depending on how he comes back from his Tommy John. Part of the reason why they went out and got Craig Kimbrell was because, Bautista is going to be Tommy John and Cano maybe not the closer-esque type, but Kimbrell, the veteran, he will be around and he will be helping out in a big way. When you look at the free agents for next year, there's some interesting names here, guys. I didn't realize we're already off the clock. Of course, Corbin Burns, they traded him, but it's a one-year deal, so we'll have to see what he can do. James McCann, Anthony Santander already off the books. That's a big piece to be losing, perhaps. And then John Means as well. Obviously, I love John Means. I think he's a great pitcher. But unfortunately, Baltimore has so much, talent in their minor league system that I don't think, they might be going out for John Means to come back and stay in that rotation, even though he was the ace for a good 2-3 years, coming off of COVID years and all that stuff. So we'll take a look at him really quickly here, actually, because he's a guy, man. John Means is good. Debuting in 2018, where he only played one game and kind of got rocked in that one game, but then was 2019. He was an All-Star, finished second in Rookie of the Year voting. He was great, 12-11 record, a 3.6 ERA. And then 2022, he was just dealing with injuries as well as led into 2023. In those 2 years as a whole, he only played 6 games. Wasn't anything special in those 6 games either. Last year, 2023, at the age of 30 already, I mean, he has sprung up quite quickly. He had 4 games, a 2.66 ERA, 23 innings, 10 strikeouts, and a 1-2 record. So the hope here is that he, obviously potentially starting the season on the IL, but hopefully not for long, comes back, end of April, and then pitches well and has a good season and can get some value somewhere else if he ends up leaving Baltimore at the end of this year. I do like John Means, and I hope all the best for him because I feel like at his best and at his core, he is a great pitcher. He has a no-hitter up his sleeves already, so hopefully he's able to find a home somewhere, if not Baltimore, at the end of the season. But all the best for John Means this year. And all the best for Baltimore because the team looks great. There's so much star potential. There's so many guys coming up as well. Gunnar Henderson. Let's start there. Rookie of the Year, because I mentioned that they have the 22nd round pick in the draft, but they also have the 32nd pick in the draft because Gunnar Henderson, Rookie of the Year winner, was on the team from day one. Played 150 games, 143 hits, 28 home runs, 82 RBIs, a 255 batting average, an 814 OPS, finished 8th in MVP voting, of course, the Rookie of the Year, as well as a Silver Slugger in his first official year. He was absolutely fantastic, and it looks like he's going to be like that for a long time. The kid is here to play. He moved around a lot in terms of where he played, a lot of third base and shortstop. So, with Fangraphs here, going off of the lineup quickly, he is right now listed as the shortstop, Jackson Holliday listed as the second baseman, and then Jordan Westberg listed as the third baseman. I would do a switch around that, put Jackson Holliday in the shortstop, put Gunnar at third, and then Jordan Westberg at second base. But that's what Fangraphs has it listed as. I'm not too familiar with other positions, but they have a lot of infield options, a lot of guys who are versatile in that way, and that helps them out in a little bit of a way as well for off days and breaks and everything. Of course, they have a face of the franchise. They have a couple faces of the franchise at this point. Adley Rutschman, top prospect, number one draft pick. He has come on and has been great. 2 seasons in the books already. 2022 finished second in Rookie of the Year voting. And 12th in MVP voting. Last year was an All-Star, was a Silver Slugger, and finished ninth in MVP voting. At this rate, he's gonna be an MVP in the next 3 years. And he's an amazing catcher, probably one of the best in the game right now. 154 games played last year, 163 hits, 20 home runs, 80 RBIs, a 277 batting average, and an 809 OPS. Just numbers improving, and that's what you want. Obviously, came up last 2022 about Mayish, June, and that kind of turned Baltimore's 2022 around and got them hope entering this year. And this year was full of surprises. I mean, I would be the last person to think that, oh yeah, Baltimore is going to win 100 games, and yet they showed up. I mean, there was everybody in the lineup, guys like Austin Hayes, Ryan Mountcastle, Cedric Mullins, and people were going down for injuries at times, and they were still finding depth, still backing things up. They were catching up. They were playing catch up in the division to Tampa Bay for a good first half of that season. And when they finally caught up, it wasn't we're catching up and we're going to surpass them now. They had to play defense for a long time to get away from Tampa. The division lead was always right there in reach of Tampa and Baltimore. They were going back and forth. But in the end, it didn't matter because they both got swept by the Rangers. I mentioned Austin Hayes, and he's another guy, kind of like John Means for me, where I like him a lot. I think he's a great player. Was an All-Star for the first time last year. He's so consistently average, and I think those are important players to have on your team. Someone who's not going to be a detriment into your lineup. He's going to go in there. He's going to go 1 for 4. He's going to get a couple hits, get a couple home runs. I think that's very important. He plays a nice outfield as well, strong arm. Last year, like I said, was an All-Star, 144 games, 143 hits, 16 home runs, a 275 batting average, a 769 OPS. I like Austin Hayes a lot. But as I mentioned, it's similar vibes to John Means in the sense of I like him, he's good, but they have a lot of young talent, a lot of prospects coming up that, could be considered better. He is going to be a free agent after 2026, so he has 2 more years still. So we'll see what happens with Mr. Austin Hayes, but I like him a lot. Ryan Mountcastle's another one of those guys who have been around a little bit more recently than some of the new younger talent that's emerging. And Ryan Mountcastle, there are some teams that he just loves to face, and he faces them well. In COVID year, he finished 8th in Rookie of the Year voting, but then also 6th in Rookie of the Year voting in 2021. I don't understand how that works. I don't know if COVID got to continue on. But last year, at the age of 26, his 4th year in the big leagues, 115 games, was dealing with some injuries, 114 hits, a 270 batting average, 779 OPS, and 18 home runs. So similar to Hayes, very average and consistently good. And there's just certain teams that he just goes off on. He's got a lot of power when he's making contact, and it doesn't strike out that much either when you compare him to some other power bats. So definitely a nice piece there. Listed at the DH, but also has played some first base and a little bit of left field, but don't expect him to play left field this year. He'll be playing first base, DHing with Ryan O'Hearn, depending on if it's a starter or a lefty or righty, because I don't think Ryan O'Hearn's going to be in the lineup for left-handed hitters, or pitchers, excuse me. Speaking of pitchers, let's talk about a couple of them here quickly. Corbin Burnes, the guy they got, a Cy Young winner and a 3-time All-Star, all with the Brewers, 6-year career, and he's a great pitcher. He's going to be a great pitcher for Baltimore probably. Last year, a 10-8 record, a 3.39 ERA, 32 starts made, which you love to see, 193 innings, 200 strikeouts. He is great. Of course, his Cy Young was in 2021, where he sported a league-leading 2.43 ERA. He's been an All-Star 3 straight years from 2021, 2022, and 2023. So potential four straight All-Star appearance for him if he can get off to a hot start with Baltimore. Of course, listed as the opening day starter, which, to some fans, they like that. I've always been one who, if I'm an opening day starter, I kind of want to be a guy who's been on the team for another year or so. So Grayson Rodriguez might have been my choice. Obviously, it could have been Kyle Bradish, but of course he is hurt now. Grayson Rodriguez, the kid, had a interesting start to his career. I wouldn't say it's a bad year, but it definitely wasn't all that. A 7-4 record, a 4.35 ERA in 23 games. He got called up, was okay, got sent back down, got called up, and then had some very nice pitching performances. 122 innings and 129 strikeouts. Gave up 16 home runs and 59 earned runs to his name. So yeah, the ERA a little bit high. So what do you got of him out of the sophomore year? I think is kind of like the question you have to ask yourself, because obviously 4.35 ERA isn't all of that great numbers, but he's got the stuff. His fastball's on it. When he's on it, if he shows up for a game, he can easily go 7 innings, 11 strikeouts, 2 hits. Like he can be that. That's why he's listed as the number 2 in that team's roster. But overall, it's just a great roster that they've constructed here. A great set of young talent. Anthony Santander, we didn't even mention, and he's been a guy. He has done it for them year after year recently. A huge power bat, huge problem for a lot of teams. 28 home runs last year in 153 games, 152 hits, a 257 batting average, and a 797 OPS. I feel like this guy can just I feel like this guy has another level that he hasn't hit yet, and possibly could be next year. Surrounded by all of this talent. I mean, when have we had a Baltimore team like this good, this talented? In however many years. Like they had that playoff run a little bit, 2016 and all that. But it's a different team we got here. Young talent, all kind of built up through the organization here. I mean, you look at Fangraphs here for that starting lineup that I mentioned. The only 2 players who weren't, drafted originally by Baltimore was Anthony Santander and Ryan O'Hearn. And, that's huge for them. You look at that rotation, a little bit more different. But there's just so much young talent and through the roster, through, the farm system. If Jackson Holliday's there day one, be scared. Joey Ortiz, Kobe Mayo, we mentioned these farm guys. Heston Kjerstad came up at one point. Colton Cowser came up at one point. Like, they have so much young talent that anyone can come up and be a star and be a huge part into the Baltimore success for 2024. As I've mentioned in other AL East teams' TOPs, despite all of this young talent, the playoffs show that you have to continue to develop that at the major league level. Something that Baltimore didn't get to do for playoffs, but they did get to do 100 wins with this team. So I still think Baltimore is a great choice to actually take the division as a whole. But I wouldn't be surprised if, some of these kids, sophomore seasons, they struggle a little bit more. Yankees got better, got Soto. Blue Jays and Tampa are still around. Like, it really is going to be a very unique battle for the division. I'm hoping that it's like how great would it be if it's like last day of the season, all 4 of these teams are tied and duking it out for the division and like 3 wildcard spots. Like, all that could happen. Like, these 4 teams are something really special, I think. And it could be a very interesting year. And again, a huge part of the key to success in surviving the AL East is winning those games. When Baltimore's going to be playing Tampa Bay, Toronto, New York, they're going to have to win those games. Like, those are big games to win. The same can be said for any of those teams. But something to keep an eye out for as we enter 2024. The Baltimore Orioles and their over under 89.5. Listen, it's going to be hard to repeat as 100 wins in the season. I agree with that 100%. However, do I think they're going to break 90 again? I think so. I think it's going to be a tough division, a tough race, but I think Baltimore, with these young talent, with some good pitching, with a Corbin Burns now, they're going to be in it and they're going to win 90 games. Give me the over. I will take Baltimore for 90 plus games. And yeah, that's going to do it for our TOP here. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. That was our last AL team. The number one AL team last year. I'm thinking going to be the number one AL team this year as well. We've got three more, though. Three NL teams, and you definitely know who they are. They're the best right now, in my opinion. So those will happen. We got one more today at 11 a.m., so be ready for that, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then, yeah, two more tomorrow. So we're almost done our TOPs, and we almost have baseball back as well. So, yeah, appreciate you all. Thank you, everybody, so much. And I will see you next time.